The observation deck of Frontier Station 7 hung, suspended between two galaxies, a monument to human ambition and alien cooperation. Lieutenant Damon Cross stood before the transparent aluminum viewport, watching distant stars blur into streaks of light as cargo vessels jumped through hyperspace corridors. His shift had ended hours ago, but sleep felt like a luxury he could not afford. The station needed constant maintenance, and as chief engineer, every malfunction became his personal responsibility. Tonight the station hummed with unusual energy. The quarterly diplomatic exchange had brought representatives from a vulpine collective, a species humanity had only recently begun understanding. Small, fox-like beings with remarkable intelligence and technology that defied conventional physics. Damon found their presence fascinating, though he had barely interacted with any of them beyond brief nods and hallways. His quarters sat in the residential section, a modest space he had transformed into organized chaos. Technical manuals competed for shelf space with old Earth novels, and his workbench dominated one corner, covered in half-assembled projects. The lighting system cast a warm glow, softer than standard station illumination, something he had modified himself after too many nights working under harsh white lights. Damon had just settled into his desk chair, pulling up maintenance reports on his tablet, when the station lurched, not violently, but enough to make his coffee mug slide across the desk. The lights flickered once, twice, then stabilized. His engineering instincts kicked in immediately. Gravity fluctuation, probably a regulator in this section malfunctioning. Before he could stand to investigate, his door chimed. The panel showed no identification, which was odd. Station protocol required all visitors to register their presence. He opened the door anyway, and found himself facing empty corridor. Then he looked down. A tiny vulpine girl stood barely reaching his chest, her russet and cream fur perfectly groomed, wearing what appeared to be a modified station uniform tailored to her diminutive frame. Enormous amber eyes stared up at him with a mixture of determination and poorly concealed anxiety. Two large, expressive ears twitched atop her head, and behind her, a magnificent tail swayed with barely contained nervous energy. Lieutenant Cross? Her voice carried a melodic quality, though she spoke standard with careful precision. I am Fennix, assigned as your cultural liaison for the diplomatic exchange program. I apologize for the late arrival, but there were complications with my quarters assignment, and I was informed you might have space available. Damon blinked, processing this information. Nobody had told him about hosting a liaison. Then again, communication between departments on this station often resembled a game of broken telephone. I was not informed, but come in. We can figure something out. Fennix stepped inside, her movements graceful despite her obvious nervousness. Her tail, however, told a different story. It swished in broad arcs, betraying every emotion her carefully composed face tried to hide. Damon had read that vulpine tails were remarkably expressive, functioning almost like a secondary communication system. The station lurched again, harder this time. Damon grabbed the doorframe for support. Fennix was not as fortunate. Her small form stumbled forward, paws scrambling for purchase on the smooth floor. Time seemed to slow as Damon instinctively reached out to catch her. She collided with him at chest level, her small hands gripping his shirt for stability. The momentum sent Damon stumbling backward until his legs hit the edge of his desk chair. He sat down hard, and suddenly Fennix was in his lap, her face mere inches from his, her breathing quick and startled. I am so sorry, she gasped, her ears flattening against her skull in embarrassment. The gravity fluctuation. I could not maintain balance. This is completely unprofessional. Damon opened his mouth to assure her it was fine, just an accident, but the words died in his throat, because in that moment, something extraordinary happened. Her tail, that magnificent, fluffy appendage, slowly curled around his waist. Not frantically, not accidentally, but with deliberate, almost careful intention. Fennix froze, her eyes widened in horror as she realized what her tail had done.
Engage warp speed.
She whispered, more to herself than to him. No, you cannot do this now. Your tail, Damon managed, his voice coming out rougher than intended. It has a mind of its own, Fennix said quickly, too quickly. Her paws pressed against his chest as if to push herself away. but she did not move. Vulpine tails react to subconscious impulses. It means nothing. It wrapped around me pretty deliberately for something that means nothing. A flush of deeper color spread across her muzzle, visible even through her fur. "You are very warm," she said, her voice dropping to barely a whisper. "And your scent is calming." My tail simply recognized a comfortable position. "That is all." "That is all," Damon repeated, but he was not entirely convinced. Neither, it seemed, was Fennix's tail, which tightened its grip ever so slightly. They stared at each other in that suspended moment. Damon became acutely aware of details he should not be noticing. The way her amber eyes reflected the warm lighting of his quarters. How her ears twitched with every small sound. The surprising softness of her fur where his hands had instinctively steadied her at the waist. "I should move," Fennix said, making no effort to actually move. "Probably," Damon agreed, making no effort to release her. The station's gravity stabilized with a soft hum. The emergency had passed, but neither of them shifted position. Something unspoken hung in the air between them, electric and impossible to ignore. "Lieutenant Cross," Fennix began, her voice trembling slightly. "I must confess something. My assignment as your liaison was not entirely random. I volunteered for this position." "Why?" She swallowed hard, her tail's grip tightening protectively. "Because I have watched you work. For 3 cycles now, since my collective arrived at the station. You approach problems with such focus, such dedication. You smile at people in the corridors, even when you are clearly exhausted. You fix the environmental controls in the vulpine quarters without being asked, simply because you noticed we were uncomfortable." Damon's heart hammered against his ribs. "Fennix, you see people," she continued, the words tumbling out now as if a dam had broken. "Not just their function or their species, but who they actually are. And I wanted to know you, to understand why a human could make me feel so safe from across a crowded room." The vulnerability in her admission hit Damon like a physical force. Here was this brilliant, beautiful creature, confessing something that clearly terrified her, and his own carefully maintained professional distance suddenly felt like the most foolish thing in the universe. "Your tail knew before you did," he said softly. Fennix's ears perked up slightly. "What do you mean?" "It wrapped around me because some part of you already decided I was safe, worth holding on to." He paused, choosing his next words carefully. "And maybe some part of me has been hoping you would notice me too." Her breath caught. Truly. They sat there in the warm glow of his quarters, gravity stabilized but the ground beneath them feeling irrevocably shifted. Fennix's tail remained curled around his waist, no longer an embarrassment but an acknowledgement. "A beginning. This is going to be complicated," she whispered. "Probably," Damon agreed, "but I am an engineer. I solve complicated problems for a living." For the first time since tumbling into his lap, Fennix smiled, a genuine, radiant expression that transformed her entire face. "Then perhaps you can solve this one too." The morning shift began with soft chimes echoing through Frontier Station 7's corridors. Damon woke to find his quarters rearranged in subtle ways. A neatly folded blanket draped over his couch where Fennix had spent the night after they had talked for hours. A small pile of technical data pads stacked with geometric precision on his desk. The faint scent of something sweet and unfamiliar lingering in the air. She had left early, slipping out before station dawn to avoid gossip. Professional boundaries, she had insisted, though her tail had told a different story when she said goodbye. It had brushed against his hand in passing, a touch so brief it might have been accidental. Except Damon was learning that nothing about vulpine tails was truly accidental. His communicator buzzed with the day's assignments. Routine maintenance on the hydroponics level, calibration checks for the diplomatic wing's environmental systems, and a note that his cultural liaison would be accompanying him to facilitate better understanding of vulpine technical requirements. He smiled at that last part. Someone in administration had actually processed the paperwork correctly for once. The hydroponics bay sprawled across an entire level, a green paradise suspended in the void of space. Massive growth chambers lined the walls, filled with crops from a dozen worlds. Earth tomatoes grew beside Centauri grain stalks and Proxima protein fungi. The air hung thick and humid, alive with the sound of water circulation and automated fertilizer distribution. Damon found Fennix waiting near the main entrance, studying a vertical garden with intense focus. She wore a modified engineering vest over her station uniform, tools sized for her smaller frame clipped to various loops. Her tail swayed in slow, contemplative arcs as she examined the root structure of hanging plants. "They grow downward here," she said without turning around. "On my world, we cultivate upward spirals. It conserves ground space in our forest cities. Different gravity, different solutions," Damon replied, approaching her side. "But the principle is the same. Life adapts." She glanced up at him, her amber eyes bright in the filtered grow lights. "Good morning, Lieutenant Cross. Just Damon when we are working together. Rank feels unnecessary between engineers." A small smile tugged at her muzzle. "Then you must call me simply Fennix. Not liaison, not representative. Just myself." They moved through the hydroponics bay together, checking moisture sensors and nutrient flow regulators. Fennix proved remarkably skilled, her small paws surprisingly deft with delicate equipment. She asked questions constantly, absorbing information about human agricultural systems with genuine curiosity. "Your species thinks in such straight lines," she observed, adjusting a pH sensor. "Linear growth patterns, rectangular plots, uniform spacing, very orderly. And vulpine cultivation is different? We embrace chaos," Fennix said, her tail swishing with enthusiasm. "Controlled chaos, but chaos nonetheless. Our gardens spiral and interweave, creating ecosystems rather than just crop fields. Every plant supports three others. Every root system shares nutrients through fungal networks." Damon paused in his calibration work, genuinely intrigued. "That sounds beautiful, and incredibly complex. It requires intuition more than calculation, feeling the balance rather than measuring it." She hesitated, her ears flicking back briefly. "That is difficult for many to understand. Humans especially seem to prefer concrete data." "Not all of us," Damon said quietly. "Sometimes the most important things cannot be quantified." Fennix looked at him for a long moment, something unspoken passing between them. Then the station's lunch chime echoed through the bay, breaking the spell. "I brought food," she said quickly, producing a small thermal container from her tool vest. "A traditional meal for my collective. I thought perhaps you might wish to try it, for cultural understanding purposes." Cultural understanding. Right. Damon recognized a careful excuse when he heard one. "I would be honored." They found a quiet corner of the observation platform overlooking the hydroponics bay, settling onto a maintenance bench with their backs against a transparent aluminum viewport. Beyond them, stars wheeled in silent majesty. Fennix opened the container with careful reverence, revealing an array of small, colorful items. Delicate pastries filled with what appeared to be crystallized fruit, strips of something that resembled jerky but smelled of herbs and smoke. Small cakes dusted with iridescent powder that caught the light like crushed gemstones. "This is a bonding meal," Fennix explained, her voice softer now. "Among my people, sharing food prepared by one's own hands is significant. It indicates trust and the desire for deeper connection." Damon's breath caught. "Fennix, I know what I am doing," she interrupted gently. "I know what offering this means, and I am choosing to offer anyway." He picked up one of the small pastries, examining the intricate folding of the delicate wrapper. "What does accepting it mean? That you acknowledge the possibility of connection, that you are willing to consider what might exist between us." Her tail curled around her own waist now, a self-protective gesture. "You can refuse. There will be no dishonor in it. Cross-species bonding is complicated, and we have known each other for such a short time." Damon took a bite. The pastry dissolved on his tongue, releasing flavors that defied easy description. Sweet and savory, and something else entirely. Something that made him think of autumn forests and distant music. "This is incredible." Fennix's ears perked forward, her whole body relaxing. "You like it?" "I love it." He reached for another piece, then paused. What else should I know about vulpine bonding customs? She settled more comfortably on the bench, her tail gradually unwinding to drape across the space between them. We are tactile beings. Touch communicates what words cannot. A tail brush indicates interest. Wrapping shows protection or affection. Grooming is intimate, reserved for close family and potential mates. Mates.
Engage warp speed.
Damon repeated carefully.
We're on course to the
Fennix
new
is for
frontier.
rippled with a visible flush. We bond for life when we choose a partner. It is not a decision made lightly. We court slowly, learning each other's rhythms and habits, building trust through shared experience. How long does courtship typically last? Seasons, sometimes years. She glanced at him sideways. But I have been watching you for 3 cycles already. Does that count as a beginning? Damon felt warmth spread through his chest. I think it might. They ate in comfortable silence after that, passing food back and forth, learning the simple intimacy of sharing space.
Engage
Fennix
warp
told him
speed.
about her world,
We're on
a
course
planet
to the new
of towering
frontier.
forests where her people built cities in the canopies, connected by bridges that swayed with the wind. She described the festivals where young vulpines displayed their skills, hoping to catch the attention of potential partners. I was never very good at the traditional displays, she admitted. I preferred taking things apart and understanding how they worked. My family despaired of me ever finding a match. Their loss, Damon said firmly. Your curiosity is one of your best qualities. Her tail tip flicked against his leg. A brief touch that sent electricity racing up his spine. You see me differently than others do. On my world,
Engage
I was
warp
too
speed.
unconventional.
We're on
Here on the
course to the
station,
new frontier.
I am just another small alien, easily overlooked. I could never overlook you. Why? The question emerged as barely a whisper. Damon considered his answer carefully. Because you notice things. The way you studied those plants this morning, understanding their growth patterns just by observation. How you asked about human agriculture, not to criticize but to comprehend. You approach the universe with genuine wonder, and that is rare. Fennix shifted closer, the movement so gradual it seemed unconscious. Her shoulder pressed against his arm. May I tell you something honest? Always.
Engage warp
When I
speed.
fell into your lap last
We're on
night,
course to the
my
new
tail
frontier.
reacted before my mind could process what was happening. In vulpine biology, our tails connect directly to our deepest instincts. They reveal what we try to hide, express what we are afraid to voice. She took a shaky breath. My tail wrapped around you because every instinct I possess recognized you as safe, as home. The word hung in the air between them. Home, such a simple concept, yet so profound when applied to a person rather than a place. I have been stationed here for 2 years, Damon said slowly. This station is my assignment, my responsibility, but it has never felt like home. It
Engage
is just a
warp
place
speed.
where I work,
We're
where
on
I sleep
course to the
between
new
shifts.
frontier.
Until last night. What changed last night? He turned to face her fully, finding courage in her amber eyes. You fell into my lap, and suddenly this station had something worth staying for, someone worth coming back to. Fennix made a small sound, something between a gasp and a sigh. Her tail uncurled from around herself and tentatively reached toward him, hovering near his waist as if asking permission. You can, Damon said softly, if you want to. Her tail wrapped around him slowly, deliberately, with none of the panic from the night before. This time it was a choice, a conscious
Engage warp
acknowledgement of
speed.
something growing
We're
between
on
them.
course to the
This
new
is probably
frontier.
against several regulations. Fennix murmured, probably. Humans and vulpines have never formally bonded before. There is no precedent, no cultural framework to guide us. Then we will create one. She laughed. The sound like wind chimes in a summer breeze. You make it sound simple. It will not be simple, Damon admitted. But engineering taught me that the most worthwhile projects are rarely easy. They require patience, precision, and the willingness to adjust when something does not work the first time. Are you comparing our relationship to an engineering project? I am comparing it to building something that has
Engage
never
warp
existed
speed.
before.
We're
Something
on
that
course to the
requires
new
both our
frontier.
skills and perspectives to succeed. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and gently touched one of her ears. The fur was impossibly soft beneath his fingers. Fennix's eyes closed, a shuddering breath escaping her. That is very intimate, she whispered. "Should I stop?" "Please do not." They sat like that as the station cycled through its afternoon shift. Two beings from different worlds, learning the language of connection. Her tail around his waist, his hand carefully stroking her ears, the universe wheeling silently beyond the viewport. Eventually, duty called them back to work. But something fundamental had shifted between them. Understanding had deepened into genuine affection, possibility into intention. They moved through the rest of their shift with new awareness, finding excuses to brush past each other, to work in close proximity, to share small smiles that meant everything. When evening came and they stood outside Damon's quarters once more, neither wanted to part. "Stay," Damon said, not as a liaison or a guest. "Stay because you want to." Fennix's tail tightened around him. "Are you certain?" "I have never been more certain of anything." She rose on her toes, bringing her face level with his chest, and pressed her forehead against his sternum. A vulpine gesture of trust and affection. "Then I will stay. For tonight, and for however many nights you will have me." 3 weeks passed in a blur of shared shifts and stolen moments. Damon and Fennix developed a rhythm that felt natural despite its newness. She moved into his quarters officially, though station administration raised eyebrows at the cultural liaison taking up permanent residence with her assigned officer. They submitted the proper forms, attended the mandatory cross-species cohabitation briefings, and endured the curious stares of other station personnel. Fennix proved to be a meticulous roommate. She organized his chaos into functional systems, labeled his tools with color-coded tags, and instituted a cleaning schedule that Damon actually managed to follow. In return, he adjusted the environmental controls to better suit her preferences, installed climbing perches near the ceiling to satisfy her vulpine instincts, and learned to cook the foods from her world that made her eyes light up with joy. Their courtship continued in small, careful increments. Fennix taught him the significance of various tail positions and ear angles, helping him read her unspoken emotions. Damon shared human customs around partnership, explaining the concept of dating and how a species approached romantic connection. They were inventing something entirely new, a hybrid relationship that honored both their backgrounds. But beneath the domestic happiness, tension simmered. Fennix grew quieter some evenings, staring out the viewport with distant eyes. Her tail would curl tight around herself, a gesture Damon had learned meant anxiety or distress. When he asked what troubled her, she deflected with forced brightness, changing the subject or initiating affection to distract him. He did not push. Whatever she was processing, she would share when ready. Patience was part of love. The crisis came on a Tuesday during the night shift. Damon jerked awake to screaming alarms and flashing red emergency lights. His engineering instincts activated before conscious thought, rolling out of bed and reaching for his uniform. Station-wide alert. The automated voice announced, "Hull breach detected in Sector 12. All personnel initiate emergency protocols." This is not a drill. Sector 12, the diplomatic wing, where the Vulpine Collective maintained their quarters. Fennix was already moving, pulling on her vest with shaking paws. "My people," she gasped. "Damon, my family group is in that sector." "We are trained for this," Damon said, forcing calm into his voice even as adrenaline flooded his system. "The emergency bulkheads will have sealed automatically. They are safe. You do not understand vulpine physiology. We require specific atmospheric pressure. If the environmental systems failed along with the hull integrity, they have minutes before hypoxia sets in." Damon's blood ran cold. He grabbed his emergency kit and tool harness. "Then we move fast. Come on." They sprinted through corridors filled with controlled chaos. Station personnel rushed to emergency stations while automated systems locked down compromised sections. The damage assessment scrolled across wall panels as they ran. Micrometeor impact. Probability less than 0.001%, but devastating when it occurred. The projectile had punched through 2 bulkheads before kinetic energy dissipated. The diplomatic wing's main entrance stood sealed behind emergency doors. Warning lights bathed everything in hellish red. A small crowd had gathered, vulpines and humans alike, all desperate for information about loved ones trapped inside. Damon pushed through to the emergency control panel, his command codes granting access. Fennix, I need you to
warp
interface
speed.
with the vulpine systems.
We're on course to the
Can
new
you
frontier.
determine which compartments still have stable atmosphere? She was already plugging her datapad into the secondary port, her small paws flying across the interface with desperate speed. North residential cluster shows green. Central common area is amber, pressure dropping, but stable for now. South cluster is red. Complete atmospheric failure. Casualties. Her voice broke. 15 vulpines were in the south cluster. All life signs negative. A wail rose from the gathered crowd. Fennix's tail went completely rigid, her whole body trembling. But she kept working, kept analyzing, because people still needed saving. The central common area will fail within 20 minutes, she reported. 37 vulpines trapped inside. We must reach them. The emergency bulkheads are designed to withstand vacuum. I cannot override them remotely without risking further decompression. Damon studied the schematics, his mind racing through possibilities. But there's a maintenance shaft that runs parallel to the main corridor. If we can access it from the engineering sublevel, we might be able to reach the common area from below. How long? 10 minutes to reach the access point. 5 to cut through the floor plating. We would have a 5-minute margin.
Engage warp speed.
Fennix met his eyes,
We're on course
and in
to
that
the new
moment,
frontier.
Damon saw the warrior beneath the general engineer. Then we do not waste time talking. They ran, down 3 levels, through service corridors too narrow for most humans, but perfect for someone of Fennix's size. Damon had to crawl in places, his shoulders scraping the walls. But Fennix moved with fluid grace through confined spaces. The maintenance shaft access panel, resisted at first, warped by the pressure changes from the hull breach. Damon applied a plasma cutter, the bright arc of superheated metal lighting the dimness. Fennix crouched beside him, monitoring the environmental readings from the common area above. Pressure at 60% and falling, she reported. They are rationing oxygen, but it will not be enough. Almost through. The last section of panel fell away with a clang. Beyond lay a vertical shaft lined with maintenance ladders. Stay close to me. If anything shifts, if you feel the pressure change, you tell me immediately. They climbed, hand over hand, rung after rung, racing against time and physics. Fennix's breathing came harsh and labored in the thin air. Her species required richer oxygen than humans, and a depleted atmosphere was affecting her faster. Keep going, Damon urged when she faltered. Almost there. The access hatch to the common area floor appeared above them, exactly where the schematics predicted. Damon positioned himself on a ladder and began cutting through the plating. Sparks rained down, hissing against the metal rungs. 2 minutes. Fennix gasped below him. Damon, you must hurry. I know. The cutter burned through the last section, and the plate fell away, revealing the underside of the common area floor. Through the gap, Damon could see vulpine faces staring down at them with desperate hope. Everyone back, he shouted. I am cutting through. The floor plating was thicker than the access hatch, designed to support weight and traffic. Precious seconds ticked away as the plasma cutter chewed through layer after layer. Fennix climbed up beside him, adding her smaller cutter to the effort, doubling their speed. The metal gave way with a groan. Hands reached down immediately, pulling at the opening, widening it. Vulpine bodies began dropping through, sliding down the ladder, or simply leaping to lower rungs in their desperation to escape. Orderly, Damon commanded. Everyone moves, but nobody panics. We have time. They did not have time. But saying it made it more likely to be true. Fennix coordinated the evacuation with rapid-fire instructions in her native language, her tail lashing directions when words proved insufficient. The vulpines responded with disciplined efficiency, forming a chain down the ladder, each helping the next. 20 evacuated, 25, 30. The environmental alarms in the common area reached critical pitch. Warning lights flashed amber to red. Fennix glanced up at the readings, and her ears flattened completely. Structural integrity failing, she whispered. The pressure differential is going to collapse this entire section. How long? 90 seconds, maybe less. 7 vulpines remain in the common area above. 7 people between safety and certain death. Damon made a decision born of desperation and training. Fennix,
We're on course
get down
to
the
the new
ladder.
frontier.
Lead the evacuees to safety. Absolutely not. That was not a request. If this section collapses, someone needs to make sure the others reach stable atmosphere. Her tail wrapped around his arm with crushing strength. If this section collapses with you in it, I am not leaving. We both survive or neither of us does. There was no time to argue. Damon turned back to the evacuation, helping pull the last vulpines through the opening. An elderly male, 2 adolescents, a female carrying an infant. They descended with frantic speed. The last vulpine, a young male barely older than a teenager,
Engage warp
hesitated
speed.
at the opening.
We're on course
His
to
eyes
the new
were
frontier.
wide with terror, his movements frozen. Jump, Fennix commanded. There is no time for fear. I cannot, he whimpered. The station groaned around them. Metal screamed under impossible strain. Damon felt the ladder shift beneath his feet. He dropped his plasma cutter, reached up with both hands, and grabbed the young vulpine by his vest. One hard yank pulled him through the opening. The male yelped in surprise as Damon caught him, steadying him on the ladder. Go, Damon ordered. The young vulpine went. A massive crack echoed through the shaft. The common area floor above them buckled, twisting
Engage
inward
warp
as
speed.
atmosphere rushed toward
We're
the
on
breach.
course to the new
Damon
frontier.
grabbed Fennix and jumped, dropping 3 rungs at a time, trusting muscle memory and luck to find purchase. They fell, controlled but terrifying. The world reduced to grip and release, the burn of metal sliding through gloved palms. Fennix's small form tucked against his chest. They hit the bottom of the shaft just as the upper section collapsed entirely. Debris rained down behind them, clanging against a ladder they had just abandoned. But they were clear. They were safe. Fennix was shaking in his arms, her whole body racked with tremors. Not from fear, Damon realized, but from relief so profound it
Engage
overwhelmed
warp
her.
speed.
Everyone,
We're on course
she
to the
whispered.
new frontier.
We saved everyone. You saved everyone, Damon corrected gently. You kept them calm, kept them moving. That was all you. She pulled back enough to look up at him, and her eyes were wet with tears. You risked your life. You could have sealed the shaft and guaranteed your own safety, but you stayed until the very last person was out. That is what humans do, Damon said. We do not leave people behind. That is what you do, Fennix corrected fiercely. That is who you are, and that is why my tail wrapped around you that first night. Because it knew, even when I did not, that I had found
Engage warp
someone worth
speed.
holding on to
We're on
forever.
course to the new
They
frontier.
climbed out of the shaft together, emerging into a corridor filled with grateful vulpines and relieved station personnel. The rescued family surrounded Fennix immediately, touching her shoulders and ears in gestures of profound gratitude. She accepted their thanks with quiet grace, but her tail never released its hold on Damon's waist. Later, after the emergency teams had stabilized the sector and accounted for all personnel, after the memorial service for the 15 lost in the South Cluster, after the reports and debriefings and endless procedure requirements, Damon and Fennix finally returned to their quarters. They stood in the shower together, washing away the smoke and fear,
Engage warp speed.
letting hot water
We're on
soothe
course
bruised
to the new
muscles
frontier.
and scrape skin. Fennix leaned against him, her small form tucked perfectly against his larger frame. I was terrified, she admitted quietly. Not of dying, but of losing you, of watching you sacrifice yourself and being powerless to prevent it. I know, Damon murmured into her damp fur. I felt the same when I saw that your family cluster was in the breach sector. The idea of a universe without you in it felt impossible. We cannot predict disasters, cannot prevent every danger. Her tail wrapped around his leg beneath the water. But we can choose who we face them with, who we hold on to when everything else
Engage warp speed.
collapses.
We're
And
on
who do you
course
choose?
to the new frontier.
Fennix tilted her head back, water streaming across her muzzle, her amber eyes luminous in the shower's soft light. I choose you, Damon Cross, for however long the universe allows. Through disasters and quiet moments, through chaos and peace, I choose you. He kissed her forehead, a gesture he had learned meant profound affection among her people. I choose you too, Fennix, for all the days ahead. They stood like that as the water ran cool then cold, neither willing to break contact. Outside their quarters, the station continued its repairs and mourned its losses. But inside, in the warmth of shared
Engage warp
space and
speed.
chosen love,
We're on course
two
to the new
beings from
frontier.
different worlds built something that had never existed before. A home, a future, a partnership born from an accidental fall, and nurtured through crisis and connection. Fennix's tale had known first, had recognized safety and love before conscious thought could analyze or categorize. And now, standing in the aftermath of near tragedy, Damon understood what his own instincts had been trying to tell him from that very first moment. Some connections transcended species, culture, or logic. Some bonds formed not because they were convenient or expected, but because two souls recognized each other across the vast emptiness of space. And when those souls found each other, when they chose to hold on through gravity fluctuations and hull breaches, and all the countless challenges a universe could devise, they created something unbreakable. They created home.